Hello, everyone, and welcome to another cup of convention tea. Today we are talking about San Diego Comic-Con 2022, the
Return of San Diego
turn
Comic
of San
Con.
Diego Comic-Con. I don't know what else to say, yeah.
Yeah, San Diego Comic Con has been, offline since 2019. Well, we all know the world happened. San Diego Comic Con kind of came back with special edition. We were at special edition in 2021. That was a fun con.
It was.
And kind of like your primer to the San Diego Convention Center.
Yeah, I got to kind of learn my way around a bit and not have to deal with the massive horde of people.
Yeah, and this year is our first time going to San Diego Comic Con. Your first time, my first time since 2008. Prior to 2022, I've attended Comic Con in 2002, 2007, and 2008. And hey, they asked us for panels. We'll give them panels.
Yep.
And I'm very excited to talk about San Diego Comic Con. This was a nice surprise for us. We really enjoyed this convention, but the episode is Convention Tea. And we're here to spill the tea on San Diego Comic-Con. Or as I've been advertising this, like, hey, it's Con Mom and Dad, and we're going to show you our San Diego Comic-Con vacation slides. So bring on the barbecue. We actually are going to have some VTube images of the two of us, kind of looking all like, hey, we're cool Con Mom and Dad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, so tell us about one of our sponsors.
The Magic Candle Company produces candles and other items with the scents you remember from your favorite theme parks. So, if for some reason you need your house to smell like the pirate water from Pirates of the Caribbean, you can have that. If you want your car to smell like the Jungle Cruise, they have little air freshener things for that as well.
I love their room sprays. I have their version of the Avatar Flight of Passage scent. I always have that in my car. So it always feels like when I'm driving, I'm just like sailing right through Pandora.
So use the code EAT15 to get a nice little discount. And, you get to fill your life with your happiest memories as triggered by your nose.
Yeah, I got some pirate water on me the other day when I was on Pirates of the Caribbean first row. I was like, oh, hey, pirate water. Everyone, use 815 if you want this scent with you forever and ever. All right, Scarlet Rhapsody, who are we? If this is your first time checking us out, Scarlet Rhapsody is a conventions review collective, mainly just Jay and I here. I'm Scarlet, he's Jay, and I've been reviewing conventions since high school, essentially. Like, I started Scarlet Rhapsody just as a website. I built the website, finally got my own domain. When I was a college student, built everything in my dorm, learned HTML and all that fun stuff. And I started out with anime conventions, reviewing Anime Expo, Fanime, any California convention I could attend, 1-day cons, 3-day cons, you name it. And since then, we've gone coast to coast. And we've also reviewed pop culture conventions. In fact, when I used to attend Comic-Con in 07, 08, I had press credentials. So it was really cool covering San Diego Comic-Con, just way back in the day. And we still have those reports available on our website if you check us out, link in bio. Yeah, and JL, you also write stuff too, right?
I write stuff too. I've been covering conventions for my college radio back in the early 2000s. And I wrote an article on Anime Expo for Animerica magazine back around 2002, I think, or 2003. It's the Flame of Recca cover, whatever one that one was, which was a cool little moment for me.
All right, let's talk about attendance numbers. So San Diego Comic-Con 2022. Let's hope we got that right, because sometimes you'll slip and say 2002, it's 2022, or just keep these things simple, San Diego Comic-Con 22. So, we don't know as of this recording how many warm bodies were in the convention center. Usually this is published maybe a week or two after the convention, just kind of getting your final numbers right in. Mm-hmm. However, a lot of people are saying that San Diego Comic-Con this year was much significantly less than previous years. How did you feel about the crowds, Jay?
It was a lot of people. It didn't feel as chaotic as Anime Expo, but I think there were more people than Anime Expo. I think what it comes down to is just how the convention center is structured, because the San Diego Convention Center is a city into itself. Where
it's almost like a spaceship. It's like the SDF one.
It is huge. And not that the LA Convention Center is small, But more to the point that there's hallways, there's a courtyard, there's the exterior zones where there's still a ton of stuff going on there. And so even though they're probably equal to people for Anime Expo, I would say, maybe slightly more, you have the space to make it work better.
Because not only are you utilizing the convention center, the whole event is spread out throughout downtown San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have folks waiting in lines for like FX, Abbott Elementary, Hall H. So you have this event like spread in different hotels. Like I didn't know there's screenings at the Omni. There's this happening at the Hilton Bayfront, and you also have like almost like another convention center at the Marriott Grand Marquis. And that was an adventure trying to like
make our
explore.
way through there.
We'll talk about that in a few. But a lot of people have been telling us like, yeah, there has been a decrease in numbers at San Diego Comic-Con. One of the reasons for that is a lot of those who purchased a badge in 2019, those carried over to 2022, and Comic-Con was no longer selling badges for 2022. So it's mainly people. Either they were honoring the 2019 badges, and also people who were buying resale badges, but those went to charity for the Comic-Con Museum because they were auctioning those off on eBay.
Yeah.
So you had to pay a pretty penny for those types of badges.
Which will then prevent a certain number of people from just going in general.
All right. So it was still pretty busy. It still was pretty crowded, but I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. Like I was telling a friend of mine the other day, like I didn't really feel too sardine in the dealer's hall, but then again, we didn't go on Saturday. But there were certain pockets, particularly the Lucasfilm area, the Lego area, Hasbro, where like, okay, you kind of feel sardined in. But once you went further away from that area, like, okay, you can walk around, you can breathe, you can look around. And good for me, because I was like looking for specific manga to buy at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, less popular booths. For sure.
I was sad that Viz didn't have the Spy X Family manga. They just had like their usual like convention specials. Like I'll buy like the first 6 of Spy X Family, but luckily there was a booth that had Spy X Family manga. All right, we did mention that this was our first SDCC. San Diego Comic-Con has like a lot of different names. Like Comic-Con International, like you're trying to figure out what's the right hashtag to use.
Because you look at the logo, it literally says San Diego Comic-Con International 2022, and you're like, it's a long name.
And people just, they call this Comic-Con. And like there's a lot of Comic-Cons now across the United States. And then like we have to refer to this one internally as the Comic-Con. So this is the granddaddy of them all. So again, we mentioned earlier, like you can check out our report on Comic-Con Special Edition. You can read my previous reports when I used to attend Comic-Con in 07 and 08, but it felt like a brand new experience for me. Jay, what was your first impressions of Comic-Con?
I don't know. It was just exhausting getting around everywhere between the heat and just trying to maneuver through waves of people.
Yeah, November made things easier because the heat was just really getting to us.
But I do like the convention center itself, although navigating solo through there is still a difficulty for me as opposed to some of the smaller convention centers. But overall, it has so much space and so many in the rooms, and the rooms, even the rooms that are larger, still get a fair amount of people. They don't fill up to max. Like that was always my story I always heard of Comic-Con in the 2010s is, oh, if you don't get to a room early, that room's just going to be filled up and you're never going to get inside it. And that wasn't really the case here, which was kind of nice. We could sometimes just sit in some of those back rows, check out a panel, and if we were kind of not feeling it, we could just leave. If we were like, all right, this is fine, and we stuck around, or we just said, well, it's 10 minutes to the panel we want to see, so, we had a little bit of that. But, there's definitely was... I heard someone else say that this con seemed to lack the enthusiasm of previous years, and not having been to previous years, all my experiences come from watching like the G4 footage back in the day, and you had people like screaming, and you had the whole Hall H line that just went on all the way out of San Diego into Tijuana, and it didn't seem like that kind of stuff was going on.
And I actually heard it was actually easy to get into some of the Hall H panels.
Yeah. So there either was less people or less enthusiasm or some combination thereof. obviously when you have all the heat and, it's been a while since the last major Comic-Con event, I can see people not being as, like, hyped up, which is kind of weird because I think we made comment at Expo where everything felt, like, more hyped up because people just missed having the huge, overwhelming Anime Con experience. So it might be just a difference in the types of people that go to this con versus an Anime Con.
And we actually did represent anime at San Diego Comic-Con. So here's a photo of us day one wearing Demon Slayer cosplays. It was your first time cosplaying as Gyu.
Yep.
And we were supposed to wear Spike's family cosplay, but I had a costume snafu, which can be easily be repaired, but it made me sad because I wanted to represent your at San Diego Comic-Con.
So I went as my almost Lloyd, but not quite Lloyd outfits.
Which is kind of there, like, it kind of looks like Murray Head from the 1-9 Bangkok video.
Yeah.
Right from the D&D
I probably should have
tavern.
just gone as Lloyd regardless, but I'm kind of...
Wig plus heat.
And jacket, and just, forget about it.
Layer upon layer. It's like 80 degrees, high 80s.
And you have that we're right by the coast, so you get that coastal humidity. It's... Like, where we're at here, we get a decent amount of humidity, but man, coastal humidity just... I just never felt like I wasn't sticky.
Which is why I really like Special Edition being in the fall.
Yes.
All right, fandom. Let's talk about the popular fandom.
Marvel plus Marvel plus Marvel plus Marvel plus Marvel.
All right, let's go into specifics, though. So when it came to Marvel, because you'll always see Marvel at these types of conventions, the one cosplay that stood out the most was seeing a lot of Scarlet Witch cosplayers.
I saw a few Caps, so Cap's still popular.
Yeah, I think it's because of the popularity of Multiverse of Madness and women's wrongs being like the in thing right now. I saw a lot of Scarlet Witch cosplayers, a lot of variations, a lot of versions of Scarlet Witch. Like we have the OG Scarlet Witch featured in this slide. Of course, Demon Slayer is not going to go away anytime soon, whether you're cost-bounding or you're just wearing the Haori over, like, your outfit. Like, Demon Slayer is not going to go out of style anytime soon.
Yeah, we ended up running into some people and have photos of other people, which was nice. I haven't had that experience in a while.
Like, can we take a picture? Like, by all means, let's do it. So at the end of our slides, there's actually a photo of the two of us as Shinobu and Gyu with a Nezuko cosplayer. It's like, and there's giant robots behind us. It doesn't get more Comic-Con than that.
Yeah.
Also, I saw a lot of Stranger Things cosplayers.
Yes. I didn't even realize that's what it was. I was like, man, people are dressed a certain way. And then it was explained to me. I'm like, oh, that's okay. Those are okay. Yes.
Like you had the Scoops Ahoy variations. You also had like a lot of Eddie Munson's, and you had a lot of people wearing the Hellfire Club shirt from season 4. And I do want me that Hellfire Club shirt.
I assume they just got those off of whatever the main online store is or something, but or maybe they're selling them at like a Hot Topic or something for all I know. But yeah, those shirts were around. Beyond that, I mean, like, I don't know if anything else really stood out. Like, even there wasn't even all that much, like, for Genshin, which we've been seeing at a lot of cons. We didn't really see any real...
We
saw Genshin people. But
it was not dominating the floor like it was at Special Edition or just
the weird
any anime con.
Thing for me is that at previous comic book conventions, especially like Long Beach Comic Con and stuff like that, or LA Comic Con, I always saw, like, an influx of DC people. Like, I'd always see a lot of Batman, Jokers, Harley Quinns, Superman... things like that. Of course, you'd occasionally... And Wonder Women. Tons of Wonder Women. And not a lot of DC representation. I don't know if that's just because of, like, the quality of the movies recently, or Marvel, I don't know, just has a chokehold on San Diego. I don't know what's going on with that, but it was interesting
DC Day was also Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually the DC Cosplayers Day, if I remember correctly. And it also shares the same day as Star Wars Cosplay Meetup Day.
I mean, I saw a lot of Star Wars people, because the 501st and whatever were all there. But it felt like even on DC Day, not a lot of DCs running around. Not to what I used to see at even just smaller conventions, where I'd be like, holy crap, is everyone Harley Quinn?
Yeah, back in the day where, like, you would just, like, take count of, like, how many Harley Quinns you would, like, pass by or run into.
So it's interesting to me seeing the lack of popularity and enthusiasm for DC.
But hey, that's just our observation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, day 1. Let's talk about getting those wristbands.
Okay, so getting our badges was relatively easy. There's a simple place you go to, and you give them your little QR thingy, and they go boop, and they go, here you go, and you go, thank you. That's the easy part. The part before that, where you have to get the wristband to get into that zone, they made it easier on other days, but apparently on day one, they decided to make it as difficult as possible.
So for context,
for
we
reasons.
arrived on day one. Okay, save an extra, just to save some money. Like, okay, we don't have to spend another night at the hotel. Like, let's just arrive day one and just focus on day one, afternoon, evening programming. So when we found out, yeah, our hotel does give out the wristbands for vaccination, but they only gave the wristbands out on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So if we stayed or prolonged our vacation a little bit more, like, we could have got the wristbands at our hotel.
We stopped at the hotel, dropped our stuff off, got our wristbands, gotten on a bus or whatever to the convention center, gotten our badges, no big deal.
But do tell us about our mystical journey into the Marriott.
People kept giving us the weirdest directions, and we felt like we were getting wandered around. We were told it's the Marriott. Okay, no big deal. So you're thinking, oh, it's got to be like in the first floor. No. So someone's like, you got to go upstairs one floor. So you go upstairs one floor. Then someone's like, no, it's over down that opposite direction you were walking. So we go another direction, and then them was like, no, it's not down this. I mean, you can make it around. If you just go around all the way around this building, you'll make it there. And you're like, okay. And by the time we got there, I was like, I'm exhausted, and the day hasn't really begun yet.
Yeah, that killed our afternoon just trying to look for stuff, because, like, between driving from where we are down to San Diego, picking our badges, that was just really exhausting for the two of us.
Yeah, by that point, it was just like
Can we just do our panel and just, like...
Go home?
We'll just, like, sit in a jacuzzi afterwards, because that just took the wind out of us.
Yeah. So,
and... I want to be harsh with San Diego Comic-Con about this, because previous events they ran, WonderCon, special edition where they did the vaccination check. Mm-hmm. It was front-facing before you entered the convention center area of any of the facilities. It was right there. Check it out.
Yes.
Even Anime Expo, say what you will about Anime Expo, they had a much more streamlined vaccination check. Mm-hmm. Like, even like, just going up the stairs, like, okay, like, we're ready to give out vaccination wristbands. Just entering in, I mean, it was just much more streamlined. Say what you will at AX. At least it was easier to get your wristband that way.
I'm going to say this. The very best was Anime Boston. The line you would go in to get your badge, there's a person midway through that line who checks your vaccination status. What a concept.
Conventions, please implement that more, please.
So that as
Make
I'm going
it
to
one
line,
stop.
Boop.
One stop shop. Please.
Oh. But now let's go on a long side quest that exhausts us completely.
Let's go on this unnecessary side quest where we don't have any mounts.
Or fast travel options.
All right, day one. Yeah, you and I, we just pretty much just wandered, just wanted to just get a lay of the land, just kind of like just catch some vibes. Mm-hmm. Like, you and I were just mainly just chilling on the mezzanine level, because it's one of my favorite spots at the convention center. Like, it's not too crowded. You always see, like, cosplayers hanging out here. You get a nice view of the San Diego Harbor out here. It's a nice little quiet zone to, like, just, grab. Usually what we do at conventions is we take a to-go salad with us, have dinner, like in a nice quiet zone where we can be left alone to our food, because we're like cats. If you bother us, we'll growl. Mm-hmm. So just kind of like just doing some wandering around day one, just mainly to just get a lay of the land.
Yeah.
And day one, we also wandered around the dealer's hall. And what you see here is like one of the Masters of the Universe sets from Mattel, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's some really cool toys. That was the one thing I will say about this con. This con, and I believe it was Power Morphicon, were like the two where I really got to see a bunch of like toys up close, and it's pretty awesome in my book.
And that's one of the things I tend to forget about San Diego Comic-Con. Like, not only it is toys are really part of that pop culture that they present at this convention. Mm-hmm. And I really like looking at like a lot of the different toys they have. I just kind of wish, because this is Mattel's booth, Mattel had like a Barbie section. Because, like, oh, hey, we got Ramses in the chat. Perfect timing. Check out this Masters of the Universe set at Mattel. But getting back to my point, I kind of wish Mattel, especially with the Barbie movie coming out, that they had, like, a Barbie section. Because, like, Barbie has done a lot of collaborations with pop culture icons. I'm still pissed off. I never got the Barbie X-Files set with David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, and there was also a Barbie James Bond set.
What?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, Barbie has done like a lot of collaborations with a lot of pop culture icons, and like, I'm Mattel. bring your Barbie game on. The Barbie movie's coming out. You know you got a huge fandom for your Barbie movies. And the Barbie movies are coming on Netflix, including my personal favorite, Princess and the Pauper, a.k.a. Barbie Corsican Sisters.
It should be really badass especially if they got, like, armed and followed the story properly.
You know, like, if I had the Princess and the Pauper Barbies, I would play them as the Corsican Sisters.
Yep. I do know that. Because I remember the one thing I remember just kind of being surprised at, and this was 2009, I think. We were in New York, we were at a toy store, and you were looking over at all the Barbies, and I was like, all right, all the Barbies. And I looked over like, wait a second, and I reached to the shelf and just pulled out a Black Canary Barbie, and I was like, there's a Black Canary Barbie? What little girl knows what Black Canary is?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would have loved to see just, like, because I used to be a huge Barbie collector, and I'm kind of slowly getting back into Barbie collecting, plastic princess collecting, as we called it back in the 90s. Like, I want to see, like, more collabs. Like, Mattel, next year, bring your Barbie game on.
Yeah, I'm wondering why they didn't have a section for that, other than maybe they're thinking there's no demographic for it at Comic-Con, which...
There is!
There is.
I mean, I've been, like, on the hunt at WonderCon to, like, collect the 80s Barbies that I never had as a kid. Because, like, I'm just getting Barbie into rockers. My goal is to get Barbie into rockers and then Gem into holograms and do, like, this Battle of the Bands kind of set. Because, to me, that was the ultimate Battle of the Bands of the 1980s.
Take that,
That was
Misfits.
the ultimate rivalry. Anywho.
I mean, it was. Barbie and the Rockers only exists because of Gem.
Anywho, day one also did some wandering around the convention. I was really hyped to see the Square Enix booth because I wanted to see what Final Fantasy XIV stuff and things they had. But to my surprise, they had like this beautiful Terra figure here. I don't want to know how much this costs. I know it's somewhere like in the thousands, but just looking at this, and also our friends Beavis and Butthead in the background. And I was just making jokes like, oh, you do know that the Beavis and Butthead booth is right across from the Square Enix booth? And I just kept like having like fiction type conversations in my head of like Beavis and Butthead like reacting to Ifrit, Shiva. You know where this goes.
I want to point out that Terra's initial element is fire.
Yeah, fire. Oh, Terra here is going for 14 grand.
Okay, cool. I can totally afford that. Let me grab my magical wallet of infinite monies. Here, Square Enix.
LunarCon is going on right now, and I wish I could be attending. It'd be cool to run panels at LunarCon. LunarCon is a Final Fantasy XIV convention in-game.
Oh. That's pretty cool they do that.
Imagine your avatar giving lectures about mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but yeah, I ended up getting the Fat Cat mount plush at the Final Fantasy at the Square Enix booth, and these sold out by day 2. Luckily, I was able to get my hands on one. I would have been happy with Cactuar from Golden Saucer in this tuxedo. Like, oh my god, it's so adorable. But like, you know what? I love cats. I'm gonna get the Fat Cat plush.
I eventually want to get a Fat Chocobo plush. There's a Fat Chocobo. He's all fat. And he's Chocobo.
Also around the dealer's hall, there's a huge push for Dragon Ball Z when it came to the anime world. It was everywhere. Like every anime booth had some sort of presence of Dragon Ball Z.
Yes, and they had a zone with all the standee thingies so you could pose with all your Dragon Ball friends. All the popular characters.
All right, let's talk about our panel.
Yes. So, first time running a panel at San Diego Comic-Con. What I found interesting, just from a personal standpoint, is for special edition, I was really, really nervous. The days leading into, I was like sick to my stomach. I couldn't sleep. And for some reason, preparing for this one, I felt a lot more calm, which is probably just because I was really tired. But the panel setup, we had a decent audience considering we were the last panel of the day. And we had a very strict, you guys need to finish the panel by 8:55 because at 9 o'clock security's just going to throw us out. And we're like, okay, yeah. No, they weren't kidding. We got to 9 o'clock, we were talking to someone in the hallway, and security's like, you got to leave. And I'm like, oh.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought they were joking on the whole, no, it's 9. Get out. All right. I kind of wish I had a hotel panel just for that one, because obviously you wouldn't kind of get that kind of thing going. But
because, it had panels at the convention center and also at the Marriott.
Yeah. But I still had a pretty decent audience, considering the fact that A, this isn't your usual anime audience, and B, uh, being a later panel when, there's already like the parties and the screenings and stuff going on around the same time. So a lot of competition.
There was like a lot of Thursday panels we wanted to check out, but by the time
Gosh.
we were so burnt out from like hunting for a vaccination badge, and plus like
Some
we were
of the things
running
were
at
just
8
the same
o'clock.
time as my panel.
Yeah, and we wanted to support a couple of our friends who had like 8 o'clock type events. Like there was the Lumpia screening that we really were curious about. But the good news is that they're going to be in theaters on a limited release. And another buddy of ours also had like a screening kind of off-site. It's like, dang, like we won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
So like a lot of things were going on Thursday night. Like, okay, let's just go in full force with our panel. And I also had Fatter Cat on the table with me, kind of like just putting it like a Blofeld kitty from James Bond. Like, yes, my pretties.
And so we went to the panel. Went pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, it went pretty well. Like, again, like anytime we do these at a comic convention versus an anime convention, like the vibe hits a lot differently.
Yes.
Because we did this at Anime Boston and Anime Expo this year, and the vibe was like, yeah!
Everyone was hyped up. It was great.
And I also love our Comic-Con audience too, because like I mentioned, like anytime I've co-hosted panels, like if you find a new series that we talk about, we've done our job.
Yes, that is the overall goal. On the one hand, it's good to know just this led to this, led to this, led to eventually your favorite series. But if you go through this panel and then you go say, you know what, I'm going to check out that Getter Robo. I'm going to check out Mazinger. I'm going to check out the Robot Romance trilogy. I'm going to check out like this Gundam series, because I've never seen a Gundam before, and they said this is a standalone, so I can just watch this one and see if I like it. That kind of stuff obviously helps, and it's cool that, because then if they get into it, they might want to come back and go, okay, I need to know some of those other shows. I know there was one that had a guy who had a stupid hat, and I'm like, yes, we could totally talk Brave Writing. I assure you, I could talk about it for minutes at a time.
All right, and that is that with our panel. All right, let's go into another one of our sponsors. All right, Convention Tea is brought to you by Yimax Sweaters. Yimax Sweaters is one of my go-to places if I want cardigans to match with vintage, Disney bounding, or even Lolita fashion. You can get 40% off your total purchase by using the code YIMAC-Dame Asnable. Again, like cozy season is coming up soon. I'm waiting for the summer heat to fade away.
No
But if you're looking for like just some cozy cardigans, sweaters, wrap coat thingies, highly recommend checking out yimacsweater.com to get that 40% off. Use yimac-Dame Asnable.
They also make great gifts. Several of our family members have gotten some of these as gifts.
Yes, we like to give gifts to like the older folks in our life. Like, hey, here's a cute sweater. Enjoy. All right, day 2. All right, day 2. Where to begin day 2? Here's a convention center.
Yeah. This was our...
It's Marvel.
Marvel Day, right?
You were cosplaying as Matt Murdock.
Matt Murdock.
Who just jumped 16 blazing school buses.
This is the second time I've worn the character. First time was for a little charity event around not Easter.
It was like for Free Comic Book Day.
Free Comic Book Day, that's what it was.
And you were at the Tustin Library just representing Matt Murdock.
Yep. I kind of wish I could just sat at a table with the free comic books. Actually, it would have been a lot easier for me instead of walking around. But yeah, I have the proper sunglasses. I have the cane, and actually my cane has like red stripes on it just to make it more Daredevil, inspired. Which is cool that we actually found a cane like that. I could actually get a pretty positive response for this costume, which I do appreciate. And then the safe Daredevil person didn't realize I was visually impaired and actually threw a brick at me.
And we actually do have this photo here where you catched a brick.
Yes.
And I had to like whisper to like, yeah, he's like legit blind. That's probably why he didn't see that brick coming at him.
Because initially it hit my shoulder and I was under a tree. And so having been to various park gatherings and stuff, like, oh, stupid acorns. I just assumed it was an acorn or something fell from the tree. And then it happened again and I was like, okay, someone's screwing with me. Who is it? Which is great when you're wearing glasses and everyone looks like a silhouette, a blurry silhouette in those red glasses. And then, yeah, the explanation. And the person felt so bad. And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, you didn't know. You weren't trying to be a jerk. It was just a misunderstanding.
And in the chat, we have Ram saying, long live Mysterion. Mysterio. Why didn't we read it as Mysterion?
I don't know. But we did not have a Mysterio cosplayer, I don't think. Unfortunately, I could have... I think wearing the big bubble over your head in like that heat would probably have just baked your skull.
Yeah, I also like taking different photos of different types of Marvel cosplayers. So this is a group that did like a Roaring Twenties inspired like flapper.
I like some of the little variants like that. There was also, what was it, like Regency Spider-Man or whatever?
Yeah, there was a ball gown Spider-Man. There was a ball gown Iron Man. And I represented cosplaying as Agent Carter. Agent Carter, she's a character that means a lot to me. And because of the quote, I know my value, no one's opinion matters. You know the deal.
From the end of season 1?
Mm-hmm. And that quote just really resonated with me. I even have a pin on my lanyard for work that says value. With Agent Carter's face on it. So this version of the character has always been my preferred version, my favorite version. So I just decided to just rep this version at the meetup. So yes, I made this costume in about 4 days prior to the convention. I still had to fix up a couple of things. The wig actually came out longer than it really was. I got this wig on Amazon, so I probably had to get like a shorter wig for Agent Carter, but that's okay. I still had fun wearing Agent Carter. And the hat, believe it or not, was a gift to me from our buddy Lindsay from KrakenCon.
That's just very, very nice of her.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay.
I guess the only other note I have is I eventually want like a Foggy to like hang out with.
So if any of you in the chat want to be as Foggy, by all means. Also, the Marvel meetup was featured on Variety. The link will be in the bio, so if you want to like just check that out. They call it their best of Comic-Con cosplays when there really was, let's hang out at the Marvel meetup. But in their defense, there were some pretty cool cosplays at the Marvel meetup.
Yeah.
So we're like in the final shot of their video. Like we're on top, like right about here. There's the two of us just standing right next to each other. So it was cool to be featured on Variety. Like even though like towards the end, like, yeah, we're in a Variety video. Cool. Also, we did a lot more dealers hall, like wandering around. We wanted to explore more. I ended up exploring around the Funko Pop area. A friend of ours was asking like, hey, there's this exclusive All Might Funko Pop at San Diego Comic-Con. Do you think you could pick it up for me? Well, no guarantees because some pickups require like a ticket.
Yeah.
And the ticket will like, this is your time to return to this booth to pick up X exclusive. I remember because I used to do this with the Hasbro booth because back in the day, me and my friends, we were really into Transformers. G1. This is also the boom of Bayformers. So because my friend, they did not necessarily like the Bayformers movies, but they also wanted to just be part of that collecting. Like I still got to have my favorite character. I still have got to get XYZ even though I don't care for Bayformers. Mm-hmm. So, familiar with the whole ticketing system. And I just kind of want to just look around because I really like how Funko does their like booths at conventions because it's almost like a themed experience. It's almost like you're going into like a land at a theme park, and they have like this Funko Town kind of setup.
It is
towards
cute.
The end of the dealer's hall.
And they had even like little crosswalks on the floor and everything, which I thought was like, is that part of the convention center? It's like, no, those are added.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's clever.
And also, I got my first ever San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. In the past, I would buy things for other people. I would do pickups for other people. But this time around, I got my own thing. So I ended up getting the Captain Carter Loungefly backpack over at the Loungefly booth. Sometimes, not always, they'll do walk-ups. And these these are totally unannounced, or maybe they were expecting X amount of people with the ticket. But like, okay, let's add some walk-ups in.
I'd point out, because Tamashii Nations had a thing, I think it was for the Naruto Super Sage mode, where they had the tickets, but they said after 4:30 or after 5 o'clock, it's first come, first serve. And I think they probably had something similar with Loungefly. That's my guess. Because I think we went there around 4:30 or somewhere around that time.
Yeah, kind of like late afternoon-ish.
And they just were letting people in. So I think it was that whole, if you have the ticket, you get to go in first, you get the selection of all the cool stuff. The rabble can't get in here and buy it before you. But
if you're not too attached.
Not too attached, and you just want to come in and hopefully they have the thing you're looking for, by all means, please buy stuff.
And I ended up getting the Union Jack Loungefly backpack here. And the reason why I got this is because I feel like I could use it not only for like Marvel stuff, but I could also use it for Azure Lane because Royal Navy is starting to be my faction, so I could use this as a Queen Elizabeth backpack.
With the school uniform?
Yeah, with the school uniform.
Because she's a blue colored. Oh my god.
And then I could use my Saber plush is here. Saber, King Arthur incarnation, British. And if I'm costing as casual Saber or like Saber Lily's a casual version from like one of the events, there is an event Lily Saber I eventually want to do. It's like from the theme park event, like from like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I can use this as my convention backpack because it would still make sense.
Yep.
And I am working on a new Genderbent Arthur from Sword in the Stone, for D23. And I could use this bag too. So I've seen like, okay, multiple uses. I can justify the price because Loungefly's backpacks, they're not cheap, but the quality is impeccable. And the other trippy thing after this convention, so for some funky context, when I used to attend San Diego Comic-Con in 07 and 08, I would always have a Burberry bag with me. And I think at one point I was wearing Manolo Blahniks in 2008 for some reason.
I get it, you're fancy.
Yeah, I know. The point is, I'm a fancy cat. Or I was really into like fancy cat brand stuff, labels back then. Kind of still am now, but not as much. Mm-hmm. I'm more into like indie stuff. I want to support my friends' business. So I'm rocking this Loungefly backpack more out of practicality while I'm running errands, going to the dentist. I'm at the mall. I visit Box Lunch, and the storekeepers, the people working in the store, are like, oh my god, someone's been to San Diego Comic-Con. And they're like, yeah, I was at Comic-Con. And then the other coworker's like, oh, don't mind me, I'm just checking out that bag. Like, oh my god, it's so awesome in person. And like, whoa, like geek branded stuff has like just become like the new like, oh, check out this label, check out these Air Jordans.
You're at the right store for that though, because you've just gone to like a Sears, which don't exist anymore, but hypothetically, no one's gonna really look at that and go, oh my god, is that the Comic-Con backpack? They're gonna be like oh, she has a British backpack, whatever. I'm gonna need to get more of these tough skins because my boy is like rough and tumble too much.
But yeah, also, speaking of Box Lunch, I also got a free gift card from Box Lunch because they had like the scavenger hunt on their Instagram stories. And if you're following their Instagram stories, they had hints on where they were hiding the gift cards. And one of the locations was the Marvel Cosplay Meetup. Makes sense. And then I just kind of like just spotted one and I'm like,
yoink.
Mine.
Look, if you don't grab it, someone else will.
Mm-hmm. Because like, I'm just going to pick this up right here.
That would have been a fun thing to do as part of the staff, to just walk around and just swoop, go to another place, whoop. It'd be actually kind of fun to do.
And Rams in the chat says, usually if no one comes on time, you're lucky. I did that a few years back and ended up getting Swamp Thing.
Nice.
All right, and we also did check out a couple panels on day 2, such as Paper Girls, now streaming on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it just started on Friday.
So I got into Paper Girls like years ago when we were a guest at Hydra Comic Con. I was reading the comic online because you got me into because you wanted to expand my horizons.
This was back when I was very obsessed with like getting into some more indie stuff because I was getting really jaded with Marvel and DC because of long stuff that I want to get into. And I was just trying to find like what are the winners from this year? What are like the ones that everyone says like is the best of this year? And Paper Girls is one of those. Alongside a few others, like Monstrous was in that time period, and other stuff was stuff we'd already known or explored. I already know the Wicked and the Divine, although I believe I got you that as well.
I still need to read it.
And so I got things of like that. Saga, of course, always has. Everyone loves Saga. But I was like, okay, Paper Girls, what's that? And I looked at the artwork of the cover, and I'm like, that's a different style of art. I kind of dig that. And then I just gave it a little bit of a read, and I was like, oh my god, Erica's going to love this. And I hate doing the whole, it's like such and such, but it's kind of Stranger Things, Goonies, but like time travel. And our main squad is made up of 4 young ladies.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the series, and because of this, I decided to like get all 6 volumes of Paper Girls over at the Image Comics booth, just so I can just keep up. Like, cause when I read the first book, I was like, okay, I'm totally in, but I got distracted by other fandoms.
Well, another thing is, at the time, the only trade that was out was the first one. They were on like issue 8. So the first 5 or 6 gets into the first book, and then after that they're like, well, we don't even have enough issues for the second book. And
So-
you skip ahead a few years, and you'd be surprised how many volumes you can grab.
So for me, I don't know if this applies to like most comic book readers, but I come from a manga background, meaning I need to have, for me to like enjoy something, for me to like just read something, I want like multiple stories in one collected volume.
Mm-hmm.
And I like having the physical copy because I like the idea like, okay, I could take this with me, I can read it wherever I go. I like the feel like flipping pages. I know I'm kind of like old school like that. I know people tell like, oh, just get on a mobile app or just
You turn
read
the page and then you
scanlations.
wash your hands.
And I just kind of like the feel like just flipping the pages. Like you have a physical book with you wherever you go, because I was always a bookworm when I was a kid, and I always had a book with me, like whether it was a Fear Street or a Goosebumps book with me in my backpack. It's like, yeah, this is my go-to book that I have if I just need to read something. So I was very happy to get the collected versions of the stories of volumes 1 through 6 at Comic-Con, and at the same time, like, go stopping by Image, it also reminded me to like, oh yes, I need also catch up with Monstrous as well, because Monstrous is effing amazing.
Well, it's done by one of my favorite writers.
And if you're into Japanese mythology, highly recommend Monstrous.
Yeah, so I just want to point that out, that like if I like a writer, that usually is, and I got something from another one of my favorite writers because I got Die, because I wanted something like I wanted a better fantasy. I find that fantasy is either like this isn't fantasy enough, or it's like derpy we're fantasy, and it's like, ugh, can I get like. Okay, so here's the thing my brother and I have always said. If you were in the world of D&D, most of us would die within like a day or two because everything is trying to kill you at all times. And you'd be lucky to just stay in a town and hope that town doesn't get raided by giants or orcs or trolls or whatever. And if it does, that the guards and random adventurers will save your butt. And then Die is kind of about that. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly. You're in this dark fantasy world. There are horrible, horrible consequences to like things that can happen. And there might be some humor here because of the writer, but it's definitely in that category where it's like, this is probably going to be a high body count kind of thing, and that's my flavor.
Yeah, the Paper Girls panel was still pretty fun. Like one of my favorite questions they asked, well, what song from the 80s do you think like is the most representative of the 80s?
Someone said my answer.
Which was?
When Doves Cry.
My answer would be Into the Groove by Madonna.
Strong choice too.
All right. One of our favorite things at San Diego Comic-Con that a lot of people don't know about is these SCA fights.
These are awesome.
Yes, SCA.
Yes. Society of Cultural Anachronism.
Mm-hmm. And these go on like by the hour over in the mezzanine levels. And like sometimes you just take your lunch, just find a place to sit down and just watch these people wail on each other. And it is amazing.
Yeah, these people actually have some pretty good training in like swordsmanship and things like that. You can really see it, whether they're using rapiers or broadswords or what have you. I think there's one person there who had an axe.
I think my favorite one was there's just one person that had like a rapier and a dagger, and they were using it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Ethan and I were talking about that recently when we were hanging out, and I was like, I can't remember the name of that stance. It's something in Italian, and I always forget it. And we were kind of getting annoyed on that one because I don't know how we even got in that conversation, but it was one of those stances that I always thought was cool because you're using the dagger for parrying and to stab with the sword, but if worse comes to worse and you get locked up at close range, you still got a stiletto, and that's going to do some damage.
And my other favorite thing about this section was, like, there were, like, even people betting on the fighters.
Yes.
Like they're putting money down, like, okay, I'm in for blue. I'm in for the guy with the skull mask.
That was great. And that wasn't, like, part of the show. That was just random attendees who did that. That's something me and my friends would have done circa 2002. And then my friend would have actually put $1 out and just, like, slapped it on the ground, like, oh, is that how we're doing it? Okay. Guy in green's gonna kick his ass.
One of my other favorite things about this section in Comic-Con over in the mezzanine level is you also have your tabletop and you also have card games. I really wish that we had more brain capacity to learn a new card game because we're so much walking around and like just kind of being exhausted from the heat. Like our brains didn't have like that learning capacity to like sit down and like learn a new card game.
Yeah,
we would love to. Maybe this might be a day one goal for us if we ever go next time. Because like one of the things I like doing at conventions is learning a brand new card game.
The one thing I lament, and I should have remembered it because when I was at Special Edition, they did everything through Warhorn. and I forgot the name of the web zone. And so we went there on day one and like got the information. And by day two, I was like, I can't do it. I know. I would just sit there and I'd be like, oh, I'd be a guy who never remembers his dice. I'd just be sitting there going like, and I didn't bring my dice either, but they had plenty of spare dice. But it just,
and you also got a free
and
I also got a free D20 at the con.
And I grabbed a free D30, so now I have 3 D30s in case I need to do a dragon's attack, a dragon's type magic or something. I don't know why, but I like them. The people they had there, just to sidetrack here, because one of the people there actually was doing a little promotion thing for their booth, and they had some really cool, nice looking dice sets, some really cool looking dice bags and trays. The only thing that got to me is that they had like large, like apple-sized D20s, which I think are really cool, and I need a large die like that to function as a counter for BattleTech, amongst other things. But I don't think I'll ever need to go up to 20. So I'm like, I want that, but can I get like a D10 or a D12?
All right. We're also going to talk about one of my favorite panels of the convention was the Psychology of Cosplay panel. So this was actually done by professors on the East Coast. It was a university in Virginia, and they actually also wrote a book called Psychology of Pop Culture, and they were also giving that out to the audience. I actually have a copy of it. I'm really looking forward to reading it. And they were talking about like just different fandoms and types of people that are attracted to those fandoms. And they did this with a survey that was sent out. We kind of went in a little bit late because I was kind of curious about learning about like the methods of which they surveyed people, because again, the title of the panel is coming from people who do research for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I also appreciate the fact that this came from like an actual study versus people just talking about anecdotal information, which do have their place, but I really like looking at panels and research that's very data driven, and I'm just kind of curious about like how we can dig deeper into other fandoms. So there's a few things they mentioned that was like, okay, I have a few questions about this, because they also talk about extroverted personalities are more likely to cosplay, whereas you and I, we're introverts.
I find it amongst, especially because I began in anime, as a lot of people that I know did, anime people in general feel way more introverted, and the extroverts are the very rare few who sometimes are only extroverted because they're dressed up like insert super energetic character, and not because that's their natural personality, but they want to be the character for that moment. They don't want no one wants to see a Tanjiro who's like, super tired and out of it. You want a Tanjiro who's like, yeah, let's go, guys.
Because I actually do want to see a study of like introverts in cosplay, because
good luck getting them to do the questionnaire.
But if you lure them with like an Amazon gift card, maybe. Because also researchers also, they also give rewards.
I don't know. Now we're going to get into like my academic training versus other people's. I'm like, that taints stuff though, because now they're going to try to give the answers that they think you want to hear, instead of giving you the truth, because now there's a reward for it.
And the photo you see here is just like what are some things that they wanted to take, what else they would like to, what are just some suggestions they should take a look at here. I have just kind of read off a few like Joker cosplayers, anime and manga cosplayers. They did have a section for anime and manga cosplayers, but I think when they were like doing their study, a majority of their sample was like the Comic-Con cosplayers. And
it really seems that way, yes.
And Jay, you and I both know that there's a different dynamic to Comic-Con cosplayers versus anime cosplayers.
Yes.
And I find it very interesting that, like, just kind of like just looking at this, like, Deadpool obviously would be also an interesting study to look at the type of people who cosplay as Deadpool. But this was a very interesting panel, and, like, I just, like, was just hanging on in every word, just all of them just kind of like, yeah, like, we find that people who cosplay as XYZ, this is what's going on with them.
Exhibits these kind of personality traits. It was interesting. It was someone I remember meeting on the East Coast who was cosplaying as something else, but they also cosplayed as Deadpool. And I'm like, oh wow, every Deadpool I meet always acts such and acts like Deadpool. He's like, yeah, that's what people expect. You need to be more like Deadpool when you're just like Deadpool. He's like, that's why when I need a break from that, I cosplay as, I can't remember, it was some other comic book character. And I was like, oh, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. That, like, again, like I said earlier, no one wants to see like a super dour like version of an upbeat character. You don't want super dour Sailor Moon. You want Usagi to be bubbly and what have you. And I think there's always that aspect
Which I can be, even though I'm an introvert. Usagi, cosplaying Usagi brings out that bubbly, like, hey, personality out of me.
Yeah. And, I think there's a lot to be explored in the idea of being able to role play in a way that goes against type. Like, one of the reasons I love bringing Parth out for D&D stuff is that Parth is the polar opposite of my personality. And I love being Parth for about 2 or 3 hours at a time at a table where I'm rolling dice. And probably could never cosplay as him for numerous reasons. But, like, those kind of characters, I've considered it before. Of like, oh, that guy has so much energy, what have you. I'm like, I would be so exhausted after 10 minutes of being this character. That, like, it's so antithetical to my personality. But I like the fact that there are people who are in that mindset of, like, yes, I can be the bubbly, happy, I have no problems character. Or I can be the super aggro dude, because I'm not in real life. I'm just kind of a regular person. And I think that's an interesting area that they could potentially explore. The going against your personality.
All right, what else we got for day 2 here? Okay, that is the end of day 2.
Yay!
So, another word from our sponsors, Beauty Bakery. Beauty Bakery, use code AB SummerCons for 10% off until August 7th, 2022. Beauty Bakery is one of my go-tos for cosplay lipstick and just lipstick in general. Right now I am rocking Sakura Delight, which is a cherry blossom inspired shade. What I like about them is they don't stain my mask, and I can wear them from the time I put on my makeup, have some coffee, have some lunch, have a couple of drinks, and it stays on immaculately. So highly recommend Beauty Bakery for long-staying lips. And they also have some other stuff as well. Like, I also use their foundation. I also use their finishing powder. He's used their finishing powder before for cosplay wrestling. So highly recommend checking out Beauty Bakery and use AB Summer Cons for 10% off your total purchase until August 7th. All right, day 3. Let's talk about some offsites.
Yeah, this was actually a fun day for us. One, being able to do the offsites during the day, I think is the better choice because while everyone's running around the convention center, you can run around downtown San Diego and check out some of the little shops and stuff, or you can be excluded from entering the D&D tavern. That's also good too.
So this is at least my personal favorite offsite. This is the Cat Cafe of San Diego. And basically, we've been doing this since we attended. We did like an offsite tour of San Diego Comic Con like a couple of years ago.
Yes, 2017?
2016.
16.
And then like, oh, by the way, there's a cat cafe here. Come and cosplay, pet the kitties.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about some of the kitties that we really liked. We have Piper here. Piper decided to sneak under my skirt while I was cosplaying as Mirabelle, and I didn't even know. Like, what is? Oh, there's a cat under my skirt.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cat's tail that's sticking under from my skirts, and I had to like wrangle the owner of the cat cafe to get Piper out because like I'm never too. It's not her cat, so I didn't want to pick it up.
They even specifically say, do not pick up the cats.
Okay, there's a cat underneath my skirt. Can you pick it up for me? Because when we had to leave, like Piper
ran back under the skirt.
Like, oh my god, they're leaving. I'm gonna stay here.
You're not allowed to go. You're my shelter.
And Piper is still adoptable. And like, if we could have taken Piper home.
It would have been nice.
And Piper's like this cute tortie right there.
Mm-hmm.
Next in the center is Grayson.
Okay, so Grayson was my little buddy. He was on top of this like cat tower that was set up like a tree. It was very cute. And he was just there, and I'm like, I don't know, like I don't want to bug a cat if he's sleeping. And I could tell he was doing that cat thing where the body is down, but the head's still looking left and right. And I made eye contact with him, and I did the blink thing. And for those who don't know much about cats, blinking to a cat means you feel safe around them, because cats aren't supposed to blink because that's when a predator or an enemy could go and get you. So by blinking to them and holding it for a little while and then opening your eyes again is a way of saying, I feel safe with you. And then he did the same thing for me, and I was like, okay, cool. And I reached over, started scratching his ear, giving him some pets. And he's super cute and adorable, and I wanted to take him home. And the best part about his name, this is a stupid fact, and I'll make it quick. I understand he's named after Dick Grayson. That's great. But in Battletech, there's also a character named Grayson Death Carlisle. He is the leader of the Grey Death Legion. He is a badass. And all I could think about is going home, getting out some tools, going to the Home Depot, and building a mech-shaped scratching post for him. possibly with a little dish thing on the top for him to like nap in. And it like I obsessed over it and was designing it over and over for the remainder of the convention in terms of like, oh, what if I did this unit? What if I did this unit? And it's the dumbest thing. No one would get it, but it would super make me happy. And I just think of it as my little Stumpy Boy cat.
Also, and the final cat here, last but not least, is Kota. Kota decided to jump on our table while we were like having food.
So I had to like move my tea because I don't want the cat knocking over scalding tea because that would be bad.
And Kota was the second cat that was underneath my skirt.
Yeah, once Kota noticed that Piper was there, Kota's like, ooh, let me see. Like snuck under.
So I had 2 cats underneath my skirt having a party.
That's the funniest thing.
And I still follow their YouTube channel just to kind of check up on the status of the cats because I feel super attached to these guys. Mm-hmm. And then when I found like, oh, Piper's buddy was adopted, so Piper is just kind of figuring himself out now. I'm like, I want to take Piper home, but we have a racist dog who's racist against cats.
Yes, he is. It's even that category where we live in a 2-story place. I'm like, if I could keep the cat up the upstairs, I'm like, no. Dog's gonna freak the hell out. He's gonna be
the dog's a racist and
trying to charge up the stairs after the cat. He hates cats for some reason. It's stereotypical, and we are both ashamed of it, and we wish that he would, kind of take a look at his dog privilege.
Mm-hmm. Check your dog privilege. Anyway. Okay. All right, day 3. Let's talk about Super7, their Cobra Cobra stuff.
Okay, so we did go to the Hasbro panel where they talked about some of the toys, and they mentioned their Super7 store. I'm like, I have to go see this place.
And Rams also messaged us, and Rams is also in the chat too. Like, oh, you gotta check it out. And we did. And so exterior on the store, they actually have like a propaganda poster thing of your future world leader with Cobra Commander. I was like, not that I'm a huge Cobra fanboy, because I'm really not, but I'm a person who loves, travel posters and propaganda posters and movie poster parodies. I have quite a few of them, and there's some that aren't even framed yet, and that in the ideal future office I have will have those. And one of the things I've always wanted is like a GI Joe or a Cobra like enlistment poster. And they didn't have any of those, but it was still seeing like a giant mural was awesome. The store itself, they had a little propaganda pamphlet they'd give to you, which was great. They had some pretty cool shirts. To be honest, they're not really the style that I would wear, because I usually don't wear stuff that just has like a bunch of characters on it. I would wear something that had something a little more esoteric. Like if they had a what are they called? Extensive Enterprises shirt, I'd be more into an Extensive Enterprises shirt, because if you know, you know. And if you don't, it just looks like I'm wearing some sort of shirt based on some random business. But they did have this one amazing like bomber jacket that I wanted so bad. I still want it. It was like over $200. Like, yeah, we didn't have that kind of money right now.
It was expensive, and I didn't have the money for it at the time. And hopefully, at a future event, they will have it. They will have my size, and I will walk around in my Cobra bomber jacket. It'll be me and Wild Weasel. It'll be great.
Let's talk about the panel.
The panel was pretty cool too. They had 2 people up there who are the main people for... I don't know if they're main for Hasbro or they're just main for GI Joe itself, but they're the main promotional people, because apparently they talked about doing previous panels together. They brought some of the toys up and put them up there to show them off, including the new Hiss tank that just got crowdfunded, and that thing is huge. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would need a table just for this tank.
And what I liked about this panel is... they were like, we would demonstrate the light up features, but we need 2 AA batteries and a screwdriver. Luckily, people in the
Mr.
audience,
Marshall shows up.
People in the audience had batteries and someone had a screwdriver.
Just like in Marshalls versus Machines. I love that. That is GI Joe right there. Of course, we have the supplies we need to solve this problem. Why would we not? And they talked about it. And the weird thing is, there's little minor things. They're like, oh, we're going to do this variant of Cobra Commander, so you have the field version. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. We're going to have a Cobra female trooper. It's like the first one we've ever made. And I'm like, yes! And I had a weird little moment just of this. I've been rewatching through GI Joe for anyone who's been following me on anything. And I just watched, I think it's called Song of the Siren, where Baroness takes over Cobra, and there's like female Cobra troopers in it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this the first episode to feature female Cobra troopers? And so I was just kind of weird. Like they're even technically canonical because of that. So they've been around for a while. They showed off some of the new designs for stuff, so we got to see a little more on what the new shipwreck is going to look like. He looks awesome.
And you can photo right here.
You can remove the hat, which is great. They showed the new design for Rock and Roll, and if the Rock and Roll's hair color remains the same as it was in the 80s, my brother, with his current beard, would be a spot-on Rock and Roll. It would be insane. I don't know if he'd cosplay as him, but I think if I talked him into it, like, we'll do a GI Joe team, and my brother goes Rock and Roll.
All right. And that's also the storefront for Super7 of the Cobra Recruitment Center.
It's really cool, and I love when people do the themed kind of store things like that.
And in the past, they've also done some He-Man thematic stuff at that store. All right. Speaking of which, we also checked out another panel. We checked out the Knights of the Zodiac panel.
And we got interviewed afterwards. We entered this kind of not knowing what to expect.
Because we were trying to look for something on the schedule to do. And like, okay, we're not really feeling anything on Hall H. Because whatever comes out of Hall H, we'll get on Twitter or something. So you know what? Knights of the Zodiac. Let's check this out.
Why are they at Comic-Con? That's weird. And so we stood in line, and someone like, we're trying to hype people up, so everyone looks like they're cheering when they enter in. I'm like, okay, Yay! We can do that. Of course, we were like some of the first people in, so it was just kind of weird.
And it was also funky, too, because we were like, we were in the ADA line, and then the fire alarm went off. Mm-hmm. And like, wait, do we have to evacuate the building? Oh my God, that would be so stressful.
They had someone coming over an intercom explaining, this is in this section, and everyone please remain calm. We're going to like investigate and what have you.
And it just turned out some teen probably pulled the fire alarm.
Yeah.
Because it's not a con until some jerk pulls a fire alarm.
Or the heat levels got so high it triggered something. Mm-hmm. But either way, did not get a hat and force us to leave because it was in a different section of the building. Again, massive freaking building. And so that was good. But yeah, then we had to do the cheering. And really the front of the lines, it just feels weird when you're trying to do the cheer.
Because you have to start it off like, woo, yeah.
And then there's like people behind you going like, oh, we're supposed to, oh, okay, yeah. But if you're like midway through line, everyone knows you're supposed to be cheering. So we got some pretty close-up seats. And I'm sitting there looking at the number of people. There's like 8 different cards there. And I was like, wait a second. Why are there that many cards here? What exactly is going on?
And we had a pretty international audience, too, because we had, like, a lot of Spanish-speaking folks, like, where we were sitting.
Yeah.
Not surprised, because my first exposure to Saint Seiya was Telemundo, when it was, like, showing the dubbed Spanish version.
And mine was from a friend who was a exchange student from Europe, I believe.
So. I mean, even one of my favorite bands that I just discovered over summer, El Shinigami's Del Norte, actually does a cover of Pegasus Fantasy.
So, definitely a lot of people in the audience. The room got decently full for something that I don't feel has like a major American audience. But it does definitely have a worldwide audience for sure. And they're like, we're doing a live action. I'm like, oh, my insides are dying. Don't do that to me. This is even my franchise, and I don't want this to happen. And then they're like, and here's our stunt coordinator, one of the best stunt coordinators in the world. I'm like,
I could watch a whole panel of Andy Chang talking about his career.
You have my attention. I am listening now. And as they went through, they ended up showing off a video of him
doing all the
they were doing the
test choreography of the stunt actors, and the way it was shot and the way it was edited. Like, if this is going to be the feel of the Knights of the Zodiac movie, I am all in.
Yeah, that actually got me hyped because I love a good martial arts movie. You know, I'm not the biggest. I know stuff about the Saint Seiya Knights of the Zodiac, but you put me in front of a really good martial arts movie, and I get so hyped up because if you see people who actually look like they know what they're doing. And it doesn't look like, an actor going like, no. Like, you need...
Because that behind-the-scenes featurette, that was intense.
Yes.
And I'm not a huge fan of anime live action, especially if it's, like, funded by Hollywood. But just looking at this, I can tell there was a lot of love that was put into this. And this looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. The actors seemed like they were having a good time, so I am cautiously optimistic. I'm really looking for a trailer is really what I want to see. I want to see what the special effects look like when it all comes together.
Because honestly, like, even though if this might be quote-unquote, I don't see this being anywhere as bad as, like, Cowboy Bebop bad, but if anything, I have a feeling that we got an entertainment popcorn flick here that we can like just watch on like, hey, let's go get some popcorns and like just sit in front of a comfort movie.
Yeah, at the very least, we got a really good martial arts movie, assuming it's shot the way it looked like in that preview stunt actor.
Because when we found out that Mark Dacascos was in this, it's like, okay, we're all in.
It weirdly filled me with joy as someone who, like, I love that Double Dragon movie. I'm sorry, people. I know a lot of people hate it, and that's fine. I fully understand. It came out in my childhood. They used to rerun it on, I want to say USA or something like that, usually double featuring it with Street Fighter, and both of those movies have, like, a special place in my heart.
All right, next slide.
Plus Iron Chef, I guess.
All right. So that wraps up day 3, which is now known as pretty much day 3 was Ramsey's subliminally told you to go to these panels days.
Yeah, really.
All right. So California Cosplay Gala. California Cosplay Gala is a Bay Area group that runs runs ballroom dances in the state of California, and hopefully we're hoping to expand to Nevada. Fingers crossed. So, California Cosplay Gala, they host ballroom dances and anime cons. They also host their own ballroom dances. They're mainly based in the Bay Area, and sometimes they'll have some Southern California events as well. So check them out on Instagram, Cosplay Gala, to find out when their next ballroom dance is going to happen. Okay.
Day 4.
Day 4. Oh, hey, we have someone in the chat that is in this photo. So day 4 is the last day. We ended up checking out, and like, our brains were just already fried and melted because, again, first Comic-Con in 14 years, his first Comic-Con, and just kind of like, between doing this Anime Expo all in 1 month, like, whoa.
And I want to point out, the last day of the con tends to be the Let's Corpse Drag Jared con, or Day of Con, and you had that plus all the other, SDCC stuff, and I was just like, the fact that my body can move, in and of itself, is kind of a miracle. I should have been, like, wheeled around in one of those, like, wagons that people carry their kids in nowadays. Just supposed to me in the back of the wagon. Woo, stuff. I love the comic guy. My favorite superhero is the guy, dude. You know him, his movies.
Yeah, so Sunday the last day, this was just pretty much, okay, let's just do, like, one more round around the convention. I had the Disney meetup at 2:00, so I was pretty okay. After the Disney meetup, we can just vamoose and just head back to where we are.
Yep.
And it was also sad too because like I wanted to, of course I had commitments to the Disney meetup, but at the same time they were running the Funko Pop panel hosted by none other than Johnny Lawrence. And there were still seats in the audience because it was a Sunday panel and Hall H didn't really fill up that day. It's like, man, I want to see Johnny Lawrence talks about Funko Pop.
I like how the actor has a name and you're just going with this character name.
William Zabka?
Yep. Star of Python and of Shoot Fighter.
All right, let's take a look here. So we just did one more round in the dealer's hall and I got you posing with Skeletor here.
Yep.
Lego Skeletor.
It's been fine. I wish I had brought Lloyd, because Lloyd and Skeletor, not that we actually have had a battle in CWF, but it would have been a funny photo.
But hey, House Husband, that might be foreshadowing something.
It might be. We'll see. And if it was Gil, it would be, like, full on.
Yeah, and again, did some more wandering around, because a lot of Comic-Con is just wandering around the dealer's hall, just kind of like, let's check out our Arts Alley. There's been, like, a lot of professional artists, like, that are featured in Arts Alley. I got the my Karen Hallian print out there, and I also got that book from, oh my god, I feel bad for not knowing his name, but he did like a picture book of the Xenomorph from Aliens.
Done as like a little kid's, like almost like a golden book.
It's so adorable, and it's kid friendly too, especially. I know, I really like it.
I think it's called The Alien Next Door, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And he also does like stylized art of like how to describe it? It's like golden book art of pop culture.
Pop culture, yeah.
And sometimes it's like material that should not be golden books. Like he did one for like Squid Game, a golden book cover of it. But I also ended up getting the Agent Carter print that he had. Like it's called The Littlest Agent. Like yes, more Agent Carter love. There needs to be more Agent Carter love.
You had a really good deal. What was it? Buy 2 posters, get 1 free.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to get some presents. We won't spoil what those are. And we got the nice book. He has a bunch of other books, too, based on various franchise things. It's really cool, and I really like this artist. He's fun.
Mm-hmm. All right, day 4. I also stumbled into the ball joint doll meetup, which was in one of the panel rooms.
I did too.
It's like, okay, let me just check out these ball joint dolls. I used to be big into ball joint dolls back in 07, 08, back in the early 2000s. Not so much anymore. I still love my dolls and all, but I don't feel too motivated to attend a meetup. But yeah, these are the ball joint dolls that were just displayed on the panel tables right here.
This ties into my sad story, which was the panel after the ball joint doll panel was going to be the stars 100 light years around Earth or something like that. And I was like, oh, this will be a fun one to hear about. And then canceled. But the thing here is, instead of having someone just come up and get to the mic and go, excuse me, everyone, the next panel's canceled. We apologize for the inconvenience. Like, the way I heard it is someone eventually who was sitting down walked up and asked someone, and they said, oh, yeah, it's canceled. And I'm like, wait, is it? And then someone else started then after that coming to people and going, like, the panel's canceled. I'm like, all right, I'm talking to my brother. I guess I'll figure out something else to do now. Because my brother was, like, super into astronomy and stuff like that as well. So, you know, it's like, oh, this panel will be cool. You'd love this panel. And then it's just like, never mind, it's canceled. Remember texting him, never mind, it's canceled. Sent. Okay,
so I also went to the Disney meetup. I like this family that did Turning Red. It's cute too. Their daughter was cosplaying as main girl May, and she had like the ears and the tail of the panda. And also in the background there was a guy who did the cardboard panda suit from the temple. Also, we had like a lot of amazing villains that showed up at the Disney meetup. We had like ball gown style villains. Ball gown Gaston, that was like one of my favorites up there. And then this photo was taken as the Hatbox Ghost just waltzes right in. Disney meetup's always fun. I ended up cosplaying as Mirabelle from Encanto. Got a lot of compliments, and I always get photos with kiddos anytime I cosplay as Mirabelle. A lot of kiddos. And I cosplayed as Mirabelle twice during the con, so like I had to like just kind of be like in Madrigal spirit, yes. So yeah, day 4, just kind of slowly just making our way back to the hotel to drive back up to where we live. And then just one final shot of Stranger Things cosplayers plus a link right here and a tiny Bowser. All right, before we get into our final thoughts on San Diego Comic-Con, another word from our sponsors, Sugar Mint Castle. Tell us about their amazing straws.
So, Sugar Mint Castle does a lot more than just straws, but one of the things we actually use on the Eat the Magic show are their metal reusable straws. As a child of the 90s, being told to reduce, reuse, recycle, being able to use something other than plastic straws and those paper straws that disintegrate within 3 seconds, metal straws get the job done. They come with their own little cleaning little brush things. You can put it inside your thing, go and they're easy to clean. They have a little holding bag. You can put them in your purse, your backpack, whatever, jacket pocket when it gets to time where we can actually wear jackets. And I've brought them to theme parks. I've never had an issue, and they are great, especially the bigger like boba type straw, which works great for shakes. It works great for obviously boba drinks and things like that. We're going to have a bigger, thicker stuff going through the straw that the smaller one won't help you with.
All right, check them out at sugarmintcastle.com. All right, closing thoughts on San Diego Comic-Con. Doing AX and Comic-Con back to back, I can't manage. I don't know how we survived, but we did. And honestly, I really do appreciate Comic-Con asking us to like host panels for their show. We were also given the opportunity to present Mythology of Final Fantasy, but unfortunately, it was going to be an earlier time slot on day 1, and we couldn't be able to make it.
Unless we left the house at like 6.
The fact that this convention continues to value what we contribute to fandom really means a lot to us, and we always enjoy doing panels for them. But I think knowing that Otakon next year is also going to be end of July again, like, oh, dang. And I just got a message from a friend like, hey, we're doing Otakon next year. Like, do you guys want to go to San Diego Comic-Con instead?
It's a tough coin toss betwixt the two. Because, doing 2 high-tier cons in 1 month is always going to be a soul crush. But each one provides a very different audience in a very different setting. And I don't know which one I'd want to do more. I guess Otakon? con because anime people are like my people, and I feel more comfortable around anime people. But there was some really cool stuff and some really hard to find things in the dealer hall and experiences I won't have if I go to an Otakon. I'm not going to go and see cool new Transformers toys or He-Man toys or what have you. That Lego booth was awesome. I know we're getting kind of final thoughtsy here, but it was just one of those little things I was thinking about how experiences you can have out in San Diego Comic-Con that make it unique to itself. That I feel a lot of the people, especially the whole like, oh, there was nothing to do, people like actually annoy me more. When I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a whole bunch of offsite stuff. They had just walking around the convention center. They had like a pirate ship, and they had the
had like the
American
mazes.
Horror Story maze. So you can actually go through a horror maze in the middle of July. Because nothing is scarier than the sun.
And the dealer's hall, a lot of the major booths there, they had photo ops section that you could like take selfies over in their photo displays. I think next year if we do Comic-Con again, we'd want to do preview night to get our photo ops, and you could also buy stuff on preview night.
Yeah, which
just
would
to knock
help.
that out of the way, and we could actually see like a lot of the booths before things get super crowded.
Even though I think most of the time there's only a couple of things I'm looking for, so I'm more of a strategic boop, 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 done kind of guy. But man, there's some cool booths. It kind of almost gave me those old school expo vibes of like, oh, here's these cool standees, and here's our big, huge, giant TV screens and stuff. And honestly, I dig that. I miss that. I love that aspect of cons, and you'll never get that at a smaller con, because who's going to go and get the huge Titantron set up for a 20,000 person convention? You get that set up for the 100,000 person convention. And honestly, I really miss that aspect of the vibe. But there is the crowding, there is the heat. Not that it's not that like Otakon is any better in terms of the heat, but I don't know, like there's aspects of the vibe that are different and that I didn't realize I missed until I was amongst them. That being said, it can also be incredibly overwhelming, and was so for me multiple times. I think we had to head out of the dealer hall because I think both of us were just getting a little too overwhelmed from lights and screens and people and noise and all that. So
I also appreciate they brought back shuttles because they didn't have shuttles for special editions, so we had to rely on Uber getting back and forth. And I appreciate the fact that our hotel just came with the free shuttles. Like, oh, thank you, it's on the shuttle route. I liked where we stay. We always stay at Town and Country Inn. It's one of our favorite hotels, and it had a much better value than staying closer to the convention center. Because like, okay, as long as there's it's on the shuttle route, it's a value to me. I think you and I both agree that both of us are more anime persons.
Yes.
In the here and now. But I mean, there are things I do like about San Diego Comic-Con. Like, I always forget that there is a toy aspect to it. And even though I might not be in particular fandoms where I'm a collector, I do like looking at the toys. I really like looking at a lot of the Mattel's displays and Hasbro's displays. And also just knowing that, oh, by the way, Bayformers is 15 years old. Here's a model of a Camaro. And I'm like, wow, like a lot of my friendships with people are like teenage years now.
Yep.
And like that just really trips me out right there. I honestly, if given the opportunity, wouldn't mind doing San Diego Comic-Con again.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's no guarantee because it really depends if they want us to do panels.
Yes.
So if they want us to do panels, like, yeah, we're so in. And you know what? If they don't want us to do panels, that's perfectly fine too. I mean, we've gone years without doing San Diego Comic-Con, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not into the big Hall H panels, though I did want to check out the Funko Pop panel on the last day. That sounded like it could be fun. But what I like about San Diego Comic-Con is going to the panels that are more creator focused.
Yes.
I like panels that are very creator focused, and they have the creatives on the team, whether it's just like a creator spotlight or the creators are talking about their latest project that's being turned into an Amazon Prime TV series, case in point, Paper Girls, because when they're talking about something from the heart, that gives you more faith that like this adaptation will actually be in the right hands. So I also like that aspect of it. I always, again, if you're going to plan to your first time at Comic-Con, don't stress on Hall H. I always recommend people to, like, just look at the indie stuff. I always like going to Arts Alley. I like looking at the small press area. I like looking at different books that I can buy. I always end up getting more things over in the indie section than I do with all the mainstream stuff. Like, I went home with a Lumpia with a Vengeance hat that I gifted to my mom, and I also ended up getting the trade for Lumpia with a Vengeance.
So, I think I completely agree with you. I think the Hollywood side of it is all very overrated.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see these trailers and stuff. You can see them on YouTube on Monday.
You'll eventually see those online. You'll eventually see the broadcast of Hall H panels online. I've only done Hall H once, and that was for Terminator Salvation. I have no regret about that. Luckily, at the time I had press passes, so a friend of mine just kind of just walked right into the front door, no problem. However, the panel room wasn't even filled up for Terminator Salvation. But I still had a great time at that panel.
But I think too many people get caught up in the Hollywood side of things and forget about the toys and comics side of things, which, is good. There's also a small anime presence there, but I wouldn't go here for anime-related stuff.
But we still cosplay from anime, case in point here.
Yeah, we cosplayed from anime most of the days. And I did buy a Haro, because of course I did. But it's in that category where there is that presence there, but it's very much like the lesser cousin of that. It's cousin Ricky that people are like, yeah, he's here, but yeah. But there's a lot of independent artists. There's a lot of really cool things, the offsite stuff. The year we went and just did offsite stuff, we had a lot of fun. They had the bar.
We had 2 days of offsite stuff there.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and that was pretty cool. A great place for photo ops and stuff. Unfortunately, the special mugs they were giving away had already.
And our buddy actually went to the Chimichanga Deadpool truck.
Yes, which also, when I found out that existed, I was like, no, why am I not going to that truck right now?
And I found out, I thought about attending the Tron 40th anniversary after party, but I was kind of going back and forth about it. But when I told you about it, like, okay, had we planned things a little bit better, we probably would have gone to the Tron dance party.
Yeah. I think one of the big issues you're going to have to really worry about is exhaustion over anything else. Because it's a large area, so you're doing a lot of walking. We both wear comfier shoes, because I just got a new set of comfy shoes.
Skechers.
And we ended up, just the heat and the walking around, it can really drain you out. But there's ways of planning your day where you could say, okay, if we head back to the hotel at 3 o'clock, and we hydrate, and we have some snacks, and then we can go to this party that starts at 6, and stay there for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, until we get our fill. That could be really fun and cool. Plus, if it's themed to this series or that series, that's just an extra bonus. But I think people need to come in with that kind of mentality. Do not come in with the whole, I need to see insert movie star when they come to talk about insert big budget movie. Go in thinking about the other stuff, the stuff that is the reason this con exists in the first place.
Yeah, definitely.
And you'll have
go with the flow.
A much better experience.
And yeah, don't skip out on the independent press, the small press section, because you'll find some hidden gems there. Because that's how I learned about Dan Cooney, who does the Tommy Gun dolls, and his other Femme Fatale series, Valentine. And he's one of my favorite artists, and I swear by his work. And I'm glad that Valentine is also eventually going to get a Hollywood adaptation. I'm very happy for him. So that's where it all starts, in the independent press section. Never skip out on them, and support independent artists. All right. So, but if given the opportunity, both you and I agree that yes, let's definitely do Comic-Con again. And this time, hopefully our friends can join us for that as well, because we miss seeing friends. Because that's the other thing. A lot of because you and I were just kind of just so busy running around all over the place. We weren't really thinking about oh, let's hang out with this or hang out with that. Because we also don't know a lot of our friends who go to Comic-Con. Because I didn't know until the very end. One of my friends ended up going to Comic-Con, and oh yeah, you were there the whole time. And then I also have friends prior to the event, it's hey, let me know when you want to hang out. Dang, I want to message you right now, but my social batteries are just so drained right now. It's throughout the weekend, my social batteries were just kind of below 50%, because again, super overwhelmed, lots of walking around, that I totally underestimated, because I keep forgetting that the Marriott has like additional programming and additional panel rooms. And I didn't even know until like day 3 that professionals, we had a professional batch. We had like our own access to our own con suite that was in the convention center. It's like, oh, you and I don't have to walk all the way to the Marriott for the con suite. We can just head on over. And
they had really good lemonade.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know
tea and coffee.
where they got that lemonade from, but it was very good lemonade.
But I'm very glad that now that we have this information, so we can plan our San Diego Comic-Con, knock on wood, a lot better next time around. All right. So I guess that's it for our final thoughts. All right. This has been Jay and Scarlet of Scarlet Rhapsody. And you know what? The convention is what you make of it.
So make it a good one.
All right, you can follow our website, scarlet-rhapsody.com. And if you like what you see here, support us on our Ko-Fi, Ko-Fi.com, Scarlet Rhapsody, as you see here. And definitely join us for Ronin Expo, where we will be doing a panel about getting started on Gunpla. Because this guy right here, he got started on Gunpla. Even though he says it's before the pandemic, he developed a Gunpla hobby over the pandemic.
Yeah. But I got my
my
first kits at like
Expo, right?
Expo, and then following a couple others at LA Comic-Con.
All right. If you're in the LA area, we will see you at Ronin Expo. And if you're a Disney nerd, we will see you at D23.